economy, the biggest customer. You can't fight back against your customer.
The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, on how he thinks the U.S. can throw its weight around in the global trade war sparked by President Trump. Yesterday, the president announced sweeping tariffs, a baseline of 10% on countries across the globe, and significantly higher tariffs on key trading partners like Vietnam, China, on top of a 20% tariff, Taiwan, India, South Korea, Japan, and the EU. Joining us now for his analysis, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. Sir, I'm so grateful to have you on the show. President Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform, "The operation's over. The patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is the patient will be stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before." What has your reaction been to that?
It is utter and total nonsense. This action has taken $3 trillion off the stock market as a consequence of an hour of rhetoric. The stock market reflects only part of the economy. So if you took the cumulative loss, extrapolating from the stock market, it's closer to $30 trillion. That's more damage than any economic policy pursued by any president in the last, probably in American history. There is no reason to think that this is particularly going to get better. That's what markets do. If markets thought it was going to get better, people wouldn't be selling stocks because they would know it was going to get better. And it would be exactly the wrong time to sell. So markets have made a judgment, and the judgment is that this was a disastrous error. There's plenty of basis for that error. Who could have imagined that somebody would have the idea to set reciprocal tariffs without paying any attention to any data on any tariff in any other country? Who could have imagined that we would decide to penalize our closest allies who were key parts of our supply chains, like Canada? This is doing to ourselves what occasionally gets done to us when the price of oil gets jacked up by $50. We take a lot of money out of our own hands by pushing some prices way up, and the result is stagflation. Look, I used to be worried about this administration's not caring enough about the poor. I used to be worried about excesses of power on the part of this administration. I still am. But right now, my primary concern is a lack of basic competence. This is the economics equivalent of having attack plans be discussed on open phone lines, including journalists. There is no coherent logic to these policies. I don't really understand how any self-respecting analyst person who holds themselves out as an economic expert can be comfortable remaining in this administration. I've disagreed with administration policies in the past, but I have never seen anything remotely like this.
When you joined us earlier last month, March 10th, you came on and said that you thought we were nearing a 50-50 chance of a recession in 2025. What are the odds today of a recession this year?
They're surely well up from that, because we've doubled down on the policies we had in place then, or tripled down on those policies, rather than, as I hoped, reverse course. I don't know whether they're 2/3 or whether they're 3/4, but nobody can say that it's a certainty that we will have a recession. But look, this is the kind of market response. Today's day in the market, worst in 5 years. And by the way, it didn't get better as we were moving into the late afternoon. So there's no reason to think that this is over. That's the kind of market response you get every few years when a pandemic is hitting, when a financial crisis is hitting, when something hugely consequential is hitting the economy. So what would it have meant for the patient to die if, like, the worst stock market experience in 5 years? Usually when you have a terrible stock market experience, it's because a bank fails, or there's a pandemic, or because there's a hurricane, or because some other country does something. We don't have these kinds of stock market responses in response to policies that the President of the United States is proud of. That is something that is entirely without precedent, and it is extremely dangerous.
Sir, some of what is going on here from a political perspective is a reaction in no small part to NAFTA, the policy put in place by President Clinton in the 90s. And you saw there was a man who spoke in the Rose Garden yesterday. You've seen some of the union leaders for the car companies in Detroit talk about this. I've been to many a manufacturing community in places like Ohio and Western Pennsylvania that have been just absolutely hollowed out since then. Was NAFTA a mistake in any way, and does that help explain where we are?
NAFTA took place 30 years ago. It's hard to know where exactly we would be without NAFTA. My guess is we'd have a much poorer Mexico and a lot more Mexicans working in the United States, and a much bigger immigration problem. My guess is that we wouldn't be able to integrate production in automobiles, and countries in Asia and Europe would be cleaning our country's cleaning up against our automobile industry in a much more serious way. Should more have been done to cushion the various adjustments that took place with respect to NAFTA? Absolutely. But I'll tell you something, nobody ever said that NAFTA caused a recession. NAFTA never took trillions of dollars of wealth out of American markets. So to somehow suggest that this is some kind of corrective of NAFTA, I think there's very little logic to that. I'll tell you who's had a great day in the global economy: China. They are seeing all kinds of opportunities for trade in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, in other parts of Asia that they didn't dream of, because people preferred to do business with us, given our exceptional economy. But when we stopped being willing to do business with them, that is an immense opportunity that has been created for China. And that's the biggest effect that this is going to have, in addition to being poorer because of the way China has been strengthened. This is going to make us a less secure country.
All right. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers.